Welcome to the course. To start off, I'm going to get you to think about what you really want from your mockup and how you'll achieve this through deciding on a mood, products, and other considerations. If we look at other mockups, we can get a sense of what we want for ours. So in its most basic form, a mockup is a prototype and a way of testing the design in a real-life setting. For some professions, the look of the mockup changes with time. For example, for a web designer, a wireframe mockup is commonly used in the initial stages to convey a sense of the design. Here the purpose of the mockup is to address the initial stage. It can therefore simply be a 2D wireframe sketch model of their website. It's more conceptual, and this is fine since at that stage you're selling the functionality. The mockups we'll be creating, however, are aiming to represent the finished product. So we want to look inside of a recognisably 3D context and using cues which relate to the physicality of photography, which is also known as photorealistic. So what do I mean by photorealistic? By this I mean the way the light and texture are modelled, so you can tell it's a 3D space. We want shadows where shadows should be, glossiness, mateness and grittiness to understand the texture and deflatten the world our flat design sits in. At the end of the day, we want it to look like a photograph, so that in our minds the jump from flat, lifeless product to active design in the real world is simple and exciting. In my opinion, it doesn't have to be 100% real either. I really like mockups which depict items which wouldn't necessarily appear in this world, or that don't conform to constraints of our planet. Things like floating objects, futuristic phones, or gadgets often give a design a more fantastical and futuristic feel in keeping with ideas of fashion and modernity. Going beyond the norm also communicates an idea of what your product represents, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. So unpicking this further, I'll use some examples of 3D mockups. So here's a mockup of a laptop from Freepik. The scene at first glance may seem generic, but there are cues we can read which dictate our understanding of what our design could represent and who we're aiming it at. Small things like the stylishness of the user's glasses and notebook are shorthand for a creative and fashionable person. We can see that they're productive since they have their phone and notebook, so using this mockup for professionals and especially creatives makes sense. We're looking at this from the viewpoint of the person ready to sit down, so it's also immersive, which is exciting in a way. Other things like the lighting, flowers and muted tones also makes this relaxing and natural, perfect for setting a mood and tone. Next we come back to a futuristic layout of floating screens. Here there's no grounding in reality, no constraints of phone brands and no background. Using this aesthetic is a clever way of showing a universal app without attaching it to a certain brand, look or demographic. Finally, the muted background executes the brightness of the app. The app isn't lost in the sea of other things, so it's an easy sell. Finally, we have an overhead shot showing what appears to be branding strategy for a cafe or coffee company. The designer has given us a clear indicator by choosing to show some coffee beans in the top right-hand corner. Unlike the interior here, we only use one product to communicate a large chunk of our story. Then we have the rustic feeling colours and other props. Perfect for communicating style. Finally, use of layout and background tie this all together. If we successfully work out the story of our product beforehand, we can set a mood through a single image. This communicates an idea very quickly to your client, and by making it beautiful, we don't end up threatening the beauty of the design. Along with considering the mood of your mockup, you'll also need to decide which products work best with your design. This can change depending on your profession and the clients. So if you're a website designer, are you using digital products? This may seem obvious, but are you showing the breadth of your work by choosing different size screens and how it's compatible in different formats, or is the focus on one system? If you're a pattern designer, you might immediately jump to print. This makes sense given print traditionally is for textiles. However, in today's world, there's also the opportunity to sell to digital designers like web designers. So are you showing this too by using digital products like iPhones or iPads? If you're a graphic designer and you're looking at branding, you'll probably want a mixture of both. Traditionally, you might be looking at a letterhead, business card and print design, but now there's also website to consider. A really fun thing is to not go for the obvious. You can really push the idea of matching a product to more creative sides of a business. Because it's all free and on a computer, there's nothing stopping you, so don't feel you have to limit yourself to the obvious. My advice for you at this stage is to start out with maybe 3 objects, and once you have those, feel free to add a surprise object to adjust the story and push your creativity. There's no reason why companies can't have personalised mugs, or why a pattern can't be used on a digital radio, so push your thinking by coming outside of the obvious. The last thing I want to consider is attribution. Are the items you plan to use from another source, or are you making them yourself? If you're following this tutorial, then the first item is an example of a self-made product. Making products yourself means your item is original, and the copyright belongs to you, giving you the right to sell and distribute your object as you please. Self-made products also have the advantage of being free, easily personalised and flexible, giving you or the client the freedom to create the composition, colour and lighting effects exactly how you want. And of course, it's 100% original. Second, we have the public domain item. Like your product, this needs no attribution and can be distributed exactly how you like. Like the self-made product, it's also free and editable. However, one thing you need to consider are the constraints which come with the file. In the case of the iPad, you may be unable to find the exact iPad version you wanted, or have elements in exactly the same place. It may also need setting up or editing, as in this case. Finally, we'll be using a free source which requires attribution. Like the other methods, it's free and editable. Being pre-made, it's also already set up for mockups, making it very quick to use. The only downside here is the line of attribution required in your product descriptions. This is comparatively easy. However, for some clients, it may be undesirable, so it's important to keep in mind. In summary, there are 3 things you want to consider about your design. 1. What's the mood of your work? Do you have a demographic in mind? Is it for a certain use? Does it convey a certain style, and is the story clear? 2. Which products are you going to use? For this exercise, I suggest picking 3 or 4 to have at bird's eye view for our collage. And finally, attribution. Does it need to be 100% original, or can you save time by using a pre-made template? Can you attribute the author, or are you confined to just using an image? When you're ready to start on the next video, we'll have a look at smart objects, which form the basis of making mockups in Photoshop.